Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cricket and the King podcast, the podcast where Jesus is the answer to everything, and we are constantly expanding on that point. Today we're going to be doing the second installment of Conversations with Katie, my lovely wife. Say hello, Katie.
Hello.
She's back, folks. She's back for numero dos. Today we don't really have an agenda, do we? We're going to be talking about relationships and our relationship and how we make things work. Making it work, doing what you're able. Okay, so you didn't tune in to hear me sing random songs from, what is that, the 80s? So we're, without further ado, let's talk about it. Did we tell the story of how we met?
Yeah.
Did we in the first one?
Yeah.
We went over the entire story of how we met?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we met and then we got married at the ripe age of 19. But what would you say to the folks that are like, you guys got married young, I should get married young too?
I would say it's probably not for everybody. It was definitely for us. We did not make a mistake. We definitely stand by our decision, but yeah, there's definitely things you have to have in place, I think, before you get married.
Yeah, like laying your life down, kind of that mentality of dying to self, it comes through the Christian faith over and over and over.
Also, just being responsible. Like if you live with your parents, and you expect, or if you've always had your mom cook for you and clean up after you, and you're like, I'm just going to go get myself a wife, that's probably not, a great place to start a marriage.
Yeah, I can't even think of how many friends I've had be like, I just need a wife to help me. It's like, dude, you're such a slob. Like, if you were married, you would have somebody who just hates you. So if you are gonna get married, make sure you're a clean and high functioning person before you. And I mean, I wasn't that clean and high functioning, but I had this blessing of a roommate that taught me how to not be a train wreck and wash my sheets. I feel like men don't wash their sheets enough. That's probably just like a universal fact.
Guys are gross.
Guys are gross. I would try to be as clean as possible, but you know how it is. Yeah, getting married when you're younger, I think you have to have a pretty solid sense of self and also know that the other person won't complete you. Mm-hmm. I think that's actually probably one of the biggest misconceptions in relationships is that like, oh, I'm going to find a wife and I'm going to be completed. I found actually in this stage of my life, I have a couple people who I run into who don't have what I have, like, single guy. Well, they're not single. They got girlfriends and stuff. But guys that have money and a relationship, but they don't have kids. And they're like, oh, like, if only I was married with kids, like, my life and purpose would be complete. Mm. But
yeah, I think especially for women and probably Christian women, honestly, there's just such an expectation to have things in place at a certain time. I remember being at camp and I was the only one in a serious relationship, and everybody else had Pinterest boards on what their dream wedding would look like, and they had their colors already picked for their wedding for the spouse they didn't even have yet. And it's just this expectation that, you're going to go to Bible school and then you're going to find someone and then you're going to get married. And I'm probably stepping on some toes here. But, if the first guy that you see when you're in Bible school and your relationship exceeds past the 6-month mark and you have this expectation that, oh, I'm going to get married when I'm 25.
He's the one.
And this panic season just starts. And yeah, like you could be making a huge mistake. Like if you're just blinded by your own expectations that you're not even making good decisions.
Yeah. You like some people just want it so bad that they're willing to forgo the steps of personal integrity and identity and personal security. Like this is another thing too, right? I think people throw that verse from Paul where he's like, I wish you could all be as I am, like when he's talking about being single. But not all of us have that grace to be single and just be like totally okay with it. I don't. I have a wife and two lovely children, and I really enjoy it. But there's like extra, like Paul even says, there's extra responsibility, extra cares of this world that come with it. Like it's not like I have friends that are like, oh no, man, I can't just uproot my life and go somewhere else. It's like, you're a single guy. You could be homeless and probably be fine. Like, there's soup kitchens around. You sleep under a tarp. Like, your life is what you make it. But you can't, when you have kids, you can't sleep under a tarp. Like, you can't just be like, okay, kids, we're following the Lord, and He told me to go to Guatemala with a backpack and faith and like do that. So that's what Paul's talking about when there's the extra cares and stuff. But the like if you are single, you have to be happy, but that doesn't mean you can't desire to be married. Like it's a healthy desire to want to get married, but the thing is, it has to come through the avenue of faith and trust in God.
Yeah, and having a spouse or having kids definitely doesn't fix your problems. It doesn't just suddenly whisk those away. In fact, I think it adds to the problem if that's your expectation, because suddenly you have an audience of people who are watching you be irresponsible and undisciplined and just not being a good person.
And if you think you have no time when you're single, wait till you have children. Then you'll realize how much time you wasted. I think that, I'm surprisingly, I have less free time now than I did obviously when I was, I say like a young man, like I'm not still a young man, like I'm under 25.
You're a young man.
I am a young man, but I wasted so much time. I use my time, like even though I have less time now, I would say I use it more effectively overall. And that's because children make you realize how valuable your time is, because they really need you for the 8 to 9 to 10 to 12 hours they're awake. Well, how hours are awake? Probably only like 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Still, our children are fairly young, so they do a lot of sleeping. But if you have those people with you and your children need something, like having children or having a wife is really not going to fix anything in you. It will in fact amplify the problem, and you'll probably project your frustration for them not completing you onto them and be mad at them and resent them. And I've actually seen that. I'm Katie and I, we've been married 5 years now, and I've seen relationships that are shorter than that or longer than that with people that are older or younger, and they've already fallen into resentment, and they hate the other person or they can't love them because they've tied their identity to them and their security to them and their value to them. And that's so dangerous because they're just a person too. And especially for men to tie their value to their wife or how their wife is or what she's saying about you or feeling, like, you just can't do that because you're the leader of the house. You set the tone. And so if you're, and I mean, some people listening to this podcast might be like, you're equal. I'm not talking about in terms of like value to God or, human value. I'm talking about like, we have different roles. Like, men are the leaders of the household. We lead the family. That's biblical. If you're not a Bible person, you're probably not going to agree with that. But it doesn't even mean that, like if Katie made more money than me, that wouldn't absolve me of my leadership. I don't think that's what male leadership in the home is. But you're supposed to lead. So if you're tying your value to your team, then if your team is displeased with your leadership, even if you're leading in a better direction, actually a really practical example of this would probably be money. So if you are saying that we're going to set these financial goals and we're not going to spend this money, and let's say your wife or let's not rag on wives, how about one of your kids really wants something that's expensive, and you're like, well, no, I've set these financial goals. You can work for your money and make your own money, and go get the thing for yourself. But this is a parameter that I've set in place that's going to leave us financially better off in the future. They're going to be ticked off with you. And if your values held to their opinion of you, like your child's opinion of you, then you're going to be susceptible to giving in to their wishes, and in doing so actually leaving them worse off in the end. And when they get to that further down the road place, they're actually going to resent the weakness in your leadership. So you're shooting yourself in the foot before you're even ahead. I feel like I've gone off on a bit of a trail, but it's worth mentioning that you cannot tie your value in relationships, especially. You just can't tie your value to the other person. And I mean, I'm pretty volatile. So in our walk with God, like, how has that been for you? Like for my volatility and you staying faithful, because you've been way more consistent, I would say, faith-wise than me over the last couple of years, even though I've been more extreme or pushing the bounds of things or whatever.
Yeah, well, again, it's just not having your identity rooted in that person, like still having roots. And like I'd be upset, sure, like if Ben wasn't leading our family, and I'm like, come on, man, do better. but like I'm still rooted to God, right? And so, you know, if he's not being the man that I know he is, then, you know, I'm still following God, and like my identity's still in him. And like I'm still able to follow him and be on the right path because like my identity is rooted in that place, not, you know, what Ben is doing and, you know, what kind of attitude he has. Like I'm still like trying to remain consistent in like how God sees me and like in my identity in that place.
Yeah. Our value in Christ doesn't go down if our spouse doesn't see us the same way. And that's super important to remember. Also, the way that you got to think about your spouse as a gift that you are to take care of and steward, basically. I can't remember where I heard it, but if you're both putting in what you feel like is 60 to 70%, the relationship's probably working out okay. But if you're putting in, you know, oh, I do 50% of the stuff, like, no, it's about, again, the laying down of your life. Like, having kids is a whole nother journey in that. But having a spouse, that's the first step. Like, you're like, okay, I'm going to invest more in this. I will carry more of the load. And if you go in with that attitude, you're actually going to have this really beautiful thing. Because I know in Katie and I's relationship, when I'm in high points or high functioning places, mentally, physically, and spiritually, I'm able to carry more and help Katie if she's ever in a low place. And I know that when I'm in a low place, Katie has really stepped in, and you do a ton of stuff. Like you know, she already does so much, and she has taken on even more. And even though she knows that I'm not in my created value, and you will call me higher, and calling people out, but criticizing someone and calling someone higher, I would say, are two different things and two different attitudes. What's the real difference in that, would you say?
Well, I think calling someone higher is out of a place of love, right? Like it's seeing someone's created value and calling them to that place. But criticism, I think, is oftentimes from a place of bitterness or even selfishness, right? Like you know, you're probably mad that that person isn't helping, or, you know, they have a bad attitude. And so suddenly you're criticizing them instead of coming at them from a place of love and just like wanting them to succeed and be the person that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely where it is. It's like coming out of a heart of love. And also, in terms of our relationship and identity with Christ, you can't expect to feed off of another person's spirituality. I think that's another important thing we've learned. And I know, like, you really struggled initially being like, why aren't I like Ben, going crazy and praying for people in stores? It's not, you know, it's not like praying for people in stores is the highest form of Christianity. That's silly. But there is different people have different functions, but we're all to be called higher. We're all to be called to risk as well. So what did that kind of look like for you, transitioning in that and then having grace kind of move over that area in your life?
Well, when you started doing all these things and operating in certain gifts, and you just had this boldness that I didn't have, I started feeling really small, like in where I was in my faith, where, the gifting that I've been given and the faith that I have is different. Like it just looks different than what you have. And it doesn't, and it took me a while to realize that, it's not that I don't have faith or that I don't have my own gifts. It's just like it looks different than yours, and that God works in the place that he sees me. So like he's giving me certain things, and he operates in my faith in that way, and it's going to look so different than yours. And so just being invested in where I'm at spiritually, and not having that tethered to where you're at spiritually.
Yeah. That verse, they compare themselves by themselves and judge themselves among themselves, and that's no good. Like, we don't compare one another spiritually, but we should be calling each other higher, and we have different things to learn. Just because somebody struggles in an area where you're strong, it doesn't mean that you're to beat them over the head with that. It actually just means that you're to call them higher, and other people need to have the humility to receive where you're strong. But the most important part of that is you, even if they're not in that place, you need to have the humility to receive where someone else is strong, even if they're not listening to you, because there's something to learn. And this, this sounds harsh to say or whatever, but there's something to learn from the dumbest of people. It doesn't matter if you are way smarter or way more successful than somebody. You need to have a humble, learning heart. And even if you're learning what not to do, that's still a form of learning. And that's a form of humility. And also, humility isn't getting walked on. I think that's another thing. There's, the husbands and wives. Sorry, I'm trying to bring it back to relationships. Going all over the place with this podcast, but the thing about relationships and honoring one another and submitting to one another, like it says in the Bible, that's not about getting walked on. Because healthy boundaries, I guess, what would be a good description? Not boundaries like you're setting parameters in which they have to live to earn your love, but you're protecting yourself from, so say, I'm just going to go to the furthest extreme because it's the easiest example to give. So say I had a Coke addiction, not the pop, the in the nose, not the mouth, that one. Katie's laughing. So if I had a Coke addiction and I'm spending all of our money and racking up credit cards, it's healthy for Katie to say that she's no longer going to tie herself financially to me, and that she will maybe go until I've sorted, but she'll still be loving and praying for me, and not, it's hard. That's the thing. It is hard not to be hurt, but you can't be hurt because it's not you. That who they are and what they're choosing to do is not who you are. And so you can't be hurt, but you can say that you're going to take yourself out of the picture and not allow them, because they're going to be trying to, if they're stealing from you, and especially if you have kids, especially like if we had our daughters and I found myself in this predicament, which I wouldn't, but it's just, to take them and have that boundary, that's not dishonoring the person. Like there's a lot of times where it's like, if a woman is having a man with anger issues, or sometimes we just hear in the church like these absolutely stupid things like, oh, just stay and pray. Like, oh yeah, and have them scream and berate and potentially physically harm you and your children. Like, no, that's dumb. But to hold a boundary, to say, I have chosen to love you. I've brought myself into covenant with you, but I'm going to protect my physical body from harm and protect our children from the harm that your choice is causing. And again, not falling into bitterness, handing it to God, and then moving forward. That's going to be the best way forward. And you have to have those boundaries. Like one of the rules, like when I was busy smoking a ton of weed, Katie's one rule was no doing it around the kids, pretty much. And so, that was her boundary. And she didn't, I think you were highly irritated, but it wasn't, I was also very sneaky, and it didn't affect me the same way it might affect other people.
Yeah, like it wasn't obvious, and I think people hear that story and they're just like, oh my goodness, like, the harm he could have done and all these things. And it was very sneaky. Like I don't know, you would smoke weed and then you'd go to bed.
Yeah, I would pretty much smoke weed and then work out. Like I would smoke weed in the garage where I had my weights, and then I'd lift weights, and then I'd go to bed. And so there was never really a time where Katie saw me in that state. And it was, so it was never an issue around the kids. But in the times where I did, use it and was like a little bit out of whack around the kids, and Katie saw that, she would hold a hard boundary.
Like, go away.
Yeah, like, go away. And because she didn't want my sin to hurt the kids. And so that was kind of just the way it was. And that's a boundary, and that's a good boundary. And at that point, we weren't even really following Christ. Katie was. I wasn't. Katie's always had a better, more consistent go. Another thing, too, that I wanted to talk about is to have core values that align in a relationship. I don't know. This is a total 180 degree turn. We're going the opposite direction of what we were talking about. But having a relationship, like core values aligning in a relationship, that is so important, because I think we make these little concessions and have these little, it's not that you're telling your spouse a lie. It's all the things you don't say. Like if you have an expectation, that say you're going to go to a Catholic church or something, and then, but your spouse doesn't have that, and they don't know that that's an expectation. Like, oh yeah, like my family went to a Catholic church, so we're just going to go to a Catholic church when we have kids. And they don't know that condition that's in your mind. That's a core value that doesn't line up, and you need to expose those things way before you get married.
Well, yeah, you need to communicate. Like even beyond core values, you just need to communicate. Like there shouldn't be these huge surprises when you're married. Yeah, coming at, like, it shouldn't be like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith where sorry, that's not a super godly movie. I don't know if I can reference it on the podcast, but two people get married and then later in the relationship find out that they were both super spies and they were hiding it from one another. So, we can't Mr. and Mrs. Smith each other in our relationships. We can't, have these secrets and these habits and these addictions and stuff. Like, you got to have total honesty, and it's just not worth entering into a covenant relationship if you can't have that complete honesty and be moving forward and calling each other higher. Yeah, well, I think that's one of the things that expedited our dating relationship was the fact that we were really honest. And I know a lot of people were really shocked that we didn't actually date that long. It was like, what, a year of dating until we got...
I think it was a year and a bit.
Okay.
Or it was a year of dating until we got engaged. Or almost a year, because we started dating in October. We got engaged in August. And then it was, I don't know, 6 months or something. Then we got, yeah.
Anyway, like, we were just really, really honest, and people were weirded out that we didn't date for that long. Like, they had this expectation that you would coast in a relationship for maybe 5-7 years. Like,
you gotta have the secrets come out slowly over time. I think that's how most people frame it.
Yeah, but we just like blasted each other like with our life, and there was no skeletons in the closet basically.
Yeah, no, complete honesty about everything. And and then I went through, well, I guess it wasn't complete honesty because I was still still telling lies and stuff, but like we went through a second time of honesty and humility for both of us. But you just gotta be on it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just that, having that forwardness and just asking, because it's, why would you waste your time, and I see this often, why would you waste your time in a dating relationship with someone who doesn't have the same core values? Like, when you're dating, especially as a Christian, when you're dating somebody, do you want kids? How many kids do you want to have? Where do you want to live? Do you have to be close to your parents? Like, those kind of questions seem stupid, but don't waste your time with somebody whose core values don't align. Don't waste your time with somebody who's not going to call you higher. People that try to find women that idolize them or whatever and get into a relationship there, like, in the end, you're coming up empty. You're coming up dry because you're not going to have the pushing ahead, the calling higher, and we need that. We need each other to push forward. I'd say we both push each other into discipline and betterment, and encourage each other in different pursuits. Like, you're getting into some new creative things. You really helped me with this podcast. I mean, you agreed to be a part of it as well. So, we're pushing each other forward in creative things and building a life together. But there are kind of concerns and cares. Like, for instance, I just found out that I have no work for the next however long. But we have to take that in stride. And we have agreed financially, we'll rein things in. Not like, and by rein things in, I mean really rein things in. Like, we probably won't even buy avocados until we find more work.
Yeah, we're basically like Dutch people in our spending.
Yeah, we don't spend a lot of money anyway. For us, balling out is like buying raspberries or something.
That is wealth.
Yeah, wealth is being able to buy. My brother said this, and I love it. Wealth is being able to buy raspberries whenever you want. That's what it means to be rich. You made it when you can buy a pack of raspberries whenever you want. So I would say it's been pretty comprehensive on our experience, and we went down some rabbit holes. This was fairly random and across the board. If there's specific things you would like Katie and I to have a conversation with Katie, TM, Tiny Circle TM, about, just kidding, it's not trademarked. Yeah, we can, comment below and send us an email, and we would be happy to bring that topic up and kind of pick it apart a little bit from our experience. But until then, any final comments, Katie?
Nope.
She's got nothing to say.
Nothing to say.
All right. Well, it sounds like our toddler's waking up from her nap. Mm-hmm. And we have to go back and do our jobs in united togetherness, not putting our value in one another, but placing our value in our value through Jesus Christ and moving forward from that place. And yeah, now I'm just preaching to the choir. You guys have already heard all our points. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful to you. Have a great evening or morning or afternoon or wherever you happen to be. We will talk to you again next time. Bye.
Bye.